Now, to any of you that are new here, this is a series we do every single week, 9:30 a.m. on a Saturday. We release new watches to the website, and it's accompanied by this video where we take a closer look at each watch. And there's also additional photos on the website of each watch beyond just the product photos, which are under the points of mention. So between all of these avenues that you have, you can get a good idea of condition, what it looks like, everything like that, because I believe that's the best way to do it. You know, a watch dealer could say, oh, this is excellent condition, 9 out of 10, when to someone else that's a 3 out of 10, to someone else it's perfect, mint. So all of these terminologies are used quite freely, and everyone has a difference of what opinion is. So if I just show you everything as clearly as possible, you can come to your own conclusion, which I think is the best way to do it. Now, as always, if you're here just to see, for example, this gorgeous pink Nomos, down in the description there is the timestamp. It will take you straight to that one. You can skip all the rambling. There's also a link to the website for every single watch you see, where you can see all of the additional photos I mentioned, the price and all the details. If it says sold, it is sold. You know, sometimes watches go quite quickly, so I do apologize about that. And as always, if you want to get ahead of the drop, as in you want to buy one of these watches before they even make it to this point, follow us on Instagram at Kibble Watches. You can see all of the watches under the coming soon highlights reel. So as always, we have a backlog of watches that are not yet on the website waiting for this moment. So you can buy them before they ever make it to the website. Now, before we crack on with the watches on the table, what's on wrist? I am wearing a very interesting and affordable watch. This was brought to my attention by a customer, and this is a Chinese tourbillon that cost me just over £200, £211 and 64p to be exact, for a tourbillon, and it's a true and real tourbillon. It's not just a open work or anything like that. It's a real tourbillon by a brand called Aesop or Aesop. I don't know how you pronounce it. It has this sort of aventurine dial. I don't think it is aventurine, but it certainly looks like it. It's 42 mil. It's crazy. And I'm quite enjoying it. I'm not going to lie. I only got it a couple of days ago, and it's been running like a champ, to be honest. And I'm going to give it a good month or so of semi-regular wear, as I would with any of my watches. And hopefully, I will come around to making a little video for you guys and girls, like I used to. I used to do the old review videos, and people seem to actually really enjoy them. But as always, it got a bit tricky when I was reviewing stuff that may eventually be for sale. You know, some people would say, is there not a conflict? As much as I hope everyone sees that I'm just honest. At the end of the day, if I speak gleamingly about a watch and then it appears for sale, it can be cause for concern. I get it, so it's why I stopped doing those things, even though I do really enjoy those kind of videos. They take a lot of time. But with something like this isn't something I'm going to be selling, you know, on the website. So at the end of the day, I thought this would be a fun little one to buy, enjoy, talk about, in amazement more than anything, that for just over £200 you can get a tourbillon. Absolute madness. But that will come at a later date. So now that that's out of the way, let's crack on with what you're here to see, which is the watches on the table. We're going to start with the most expensive watch on the table today, and then we're on to pretty much affordable across the board. Obviously, that's relative, and you know, everyone's affordability is different, but this is a absolutely gorgeous Rolex Submariner steel and gold black dial 16613LN. So I have another one of these on the website, but it's not this later version. This is from 2005, so there's a difference between the two, but let's take a closer look at this one. So starting this week off with this gorgeous Rolex Submariner. This is the steel and gold reference 16613LN with the black dial, black bezel, and the Luminova dial in hands, and that's because this one is from March 2005. Absolutely gorgeous watch, you know, everything you'd expect from a watch like this. Gold screw down crown, gold on the bezel, gold throughout the bracelet, and the case on this one is incredibly strong and sharp. As it's a later reference, it doesn't have the drilled lug holes, and it has solid end links, which is a nice step up from the earlier models. As you'd expect, again, simple folding clasp that snips down, and a unsigned screw down case back. Inside is an automatic Rolex caliber 3135, and this one does come with its original box and paperwork, which is really lovely, especially for an example this nice and this clean, and from this later period with the LN statement on the red reference as well. So you really can't go wrong with a watch like this. I do on the website have a slightly earlier model, which Also has box and papers and is also the black dial. And I also have a Blue Z, which is the blue version of this with the blue dial, blue bezel. So you've got a perfect choice between a few models. So if you're unsure, book an appointment, come see them all together and make your decision that way. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, beautifully paired on my 7-inch wrist. These always wear incredibly well, and something about the black dial just makes them wear that little bit smaller, I find. It could just be me on that front, but I do think the blue looks bigger on the wrist, whether that's because it's just brighter in general and this is more subdued, I don't know, but it wears incredibly well. 40mm by 47mm lug to lug, 13mm on the thickness and 20mm on the lug, so endless options for swapping this one out. But to be honest, the bracelet, in my opinion, definitely looks the best, so go check it out on the website today. From there, let's go over to a gorgeous Grand Seiko. This is a fairly early Grand Seiko from 2013. This is the reference SBGR 051J. In 37mm automatic, absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think this will still be here on the drop. If it is, snap it up because it's well under £2,000, complete set with a strap and buckle as well. Beyond just the bracelet, you cannot go wrong with this. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to a earlier Grand Seiko, and the way you can tell it's a slightly earlier model is you have Seiko still proudly presented on the dial. As a lot of you will notice, modern Grand Seikos or the later Grand Seikos just have Grand Seiko on the dial. It was something that I remember when they did the change and it was a bit controversial. Some people favoured the Seiko Grand Seiko. Some people prefer just the Grand Seiko. I get why the brand did it. It was to sort of separate themselves from Seiko because obviously the prices are substantially different for the most part. Therefore, you know, for some people seeing Seiko still just wasn't ideal. So to have just Grand Seiko on it made more sense for, I guess, the market. Let me know down in the comments, what do you prefer? I quite like having Seiko on the dial because it feels more stealth. And what I mean by that is to people just looking at your wrist, they'll see the word Seiko and assume it's just that, it's a Seiko. But to those who really know, they see that GS logo down there. And I think it sort of... it's if you know kind of situation, right? So this is the reference SBGR 051J, and this one's from circa 2013 with its box and paperwork, plus a leather strap with deploying buckle, which is Grand Seiko as well as the Grand Seiko traditional bracelet, as you'd come to expect from them, with the push button open. Exhibition case back right there, showcasing a automatic Grand Seiko caliber 9S65. So yes, this is an automatic Grand Seiko. As I mentioned in the intro, under £2,000 with everything. I think that's incredible, really, especially for the smaller case size. You can see the case on this one is absolutely beautiful. The Zaratsu finishing throughout, as you'd expect. The nice silver dial, which makes this incredibly versatile. Drilled lug holes to make strap changing nice and easy, as you'd expect as well. A nice big Grand Seiko signed crown. A really, really beautiful watch and well worth every penny. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go. On my 7-inch wrist, it is definitely a looker, and at 37mm, incredibly comfortable. So this is 37mm by 44mm lug to lug, 13mm on the thickness and 19mm on the lug. So a little awkward, but there are plenty of options out there. And as I say, this comes with the Grand Seiko strap and deployant already in the box as well for you to enjoy. So go check it out on the website today. From there, let's go over to the craziest watch on the table without question. That's this Aquadive. This is the Bathyscaphe, or Bathyscaphe, I butcher it every time. 300N black DLC 47mm automatic. This is crazy. Let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to one of the biggest watches I think I have ever stocked. This is an absolutely crazy Aquadive Bathyscaphe 300, which is 3,000 meters waterproof. Yes, you heard that right. 3,000 meters, just shy of 10,000 feet. I've never been diving, but I suspect you don't go anywhere near that kind of depth, which is absolutely a testament to technology and engineering in something like this. And Aquadive is a brand with real history and heritage within the diving world. Give it a read over on the website, so they have every right to do something absolutely bonkers like this. And the watch is very emblematic, or whatever you want to say, of that feat, if you will. You have a helium escape valve hidden between the lugs right there. You'll have to forgive me with the camera because it is all black, so it's hard. It's struggling to focus. You have this absolutely behemoth of a case. which again, with that kind of pressure, I'm not surprised. It's like a mini submarine on your wrist. Screw down crown at 3 o'clock, solid big screw down case back, and this is a limited edition of 500 pieces total. I won't bore you with the reference, you can go see that on the website because it's quite a long reference. And this one's from February 2013 with its box and paperwork, and it comes on its original isoframe Aquadive strap, which is surprisingly very comfortable and actually makes the watch somewhat wearable. Now, I say that in quotations because if you have a very small wrist, this is going to be tough to wear. There's no doubt about it. But again, it's a tool watch, right? Like, this is as tooly as you can get, really, with the dive world. Inside is an automatic ETA 2824-2. Which is really, you know, a workhorse movement, easy to have serviced, which is good for a watch like this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's show it on wrist, which I think is what you're all waiting for, and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now, looking top down, it is obviously a huge watch, but it doesn't look absolutely like unwearable. And then when we put it to the side, you can see that is not fitting under any dress cuff, that's for sure, but hopefully you wouldn't be wearing this with a tuxedo anyway. So this is 47mm by 52.5mm lug to lug. It's huge. 19.5mm thick, so just under 20mm on the thickness, which is crazy, and 24mm on the lug, so there actually are quite a lot of options out there for straps for this one, but I think this suits it best. And I suspect some aficionado of dive watches or someone with a ginormous wrist is going to be the one to buy this. But it is really a cool watch and a testament to what can be done in the diving world. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to a Longines Hydro Conquest 41 with the green bezel and the black dial, which has this gorgeous texture. This is a really great watch for under £1,000. You really can't go wrong with something like this. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to one of the newer releases from Longines, and I think personally Longines are doing an incredible job as of late with their new releases, and this is a beautiful testament to that. This is the Hydro Conquest 41 with the green ceramic bezel, and that green, it looks quite bright on the camera. I don't know if it's coming across like that in the video, but in the photos it's quite dark, and the reason being it is very dynamic, meaning in some lights it goes this really sort of khaki green, and in other lights it does go black. It's very, very sort of dynamic and very interesting, and I think adds to the allure of the watch, because for me, I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of like Kermit green bright bezel. It just doesn't do it for me, whereas this kind of green I think really works. It's like the Harrods green. I think, again, that's a nicely done green, but hey, it's all personal preference. You have this textured matte black dial, date over at 3 o'clock, faux patina throughout, which again is nicely done. And this one comes paired on its bracelet. It's got a big box which has a strap in it as well. It is worn, there are some stickers still on it, but to be honest, it's pretty damn good condition. You're going to be hard pressed to find better stickers still on the back as well. Now, I won't bore you with a reference to this one, a long reference, you can see that over on the website if you are interested. Big screw down crown with the crown guards, which for me, this is the icon of the Hydro Conquest. This is how I remember it. Over the years, this sort of crown guard, with the design of course, but that is quite prominent compared to most. This one is from November 2023 with its full box and paperwork, and as I say, it's got an additional strap in the box as well, and it's a nice big mahogany sort of wood box. I think they're very, very nice. And inside is an automatic Longines caliber L888, which is a modification of an ETA, so very good, reliable movement as you'd expect. But let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Now the bracelet has all of its links in currently, so it is quite big, which you'd expect, to be honest, especially with my 7-inch wrist, which isn't the largest, but here you go. It looks really nice on the wrist. I'd wear it on the bracelet, but I think I'd probably wear this more on a strap. I think it would look really nice on like a 2-piece canvas or the strap that comes with it in the box. So this is 41mm by 50.5mm lug to lug, 11.5mm on the thickness, which is quite thin to be honest, and 21mm on the lug, so a little awkward, but there are options out there. So go check out this watch on the website today. From there over to another great dive watch. This is the Oris Diver's 6540mm automatic with that gorgeous sort of light blue-grey dial. I think it's a very attractive combination on the rivet bracelet. So yeah, let's take a closer look at this one. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of the Oris Diver 65. I think it's one of the most, one of the best looking divers out there at an affordable price range. And interestingly, I also think that Aquis falls into that range, so the other Oris diver, but in a completely different camp. You know, this is a heritage diver, that's a modern diver, and I think Oris have nailed it with both, and to have both in the catalogue is great, and I'm a big fan of the brand as well. Now, I won't bore you with the reference to this one. Oris have ridiculously ridiculously long references, so you can go see that on the website. But this one's from October 2018. It does come with its box and paperwork and its original rivet style bracelet, as you can see, which is very attractive. It tapers aggressively down to the clasp. These, if I remember, were one of the first brands to do a major watch with a heavily tapered bracelet, and it worked incredibly well. The Heritage Oris logo right there on the case back, and inside is an automatic Sellita SW200-1. And another reason I quite like this reference is because you don't have an exhibition case back. Oris have an iconic red rotor, which is very attractive and, you know, again, iconic. But for me, the closed case back is more preferable, especially on a Sellita. Not that there's anything wrong with those movements. They are incredible workhorse movements. I just don't think they're much to look at personally. So I prefer a nice closed case back, which this has. Screw down crown at 3 o'clock with no crown guards, very reminiscent of the Heritage design, and a black rotating bezel, which I have now moved and I'll move back shortly. You have the Art Deco exploding numerals with that faux patina, light blue, grey on the inside. It is incredibly attractive. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, a very good looking watch, well proportioned for a Heritage diver, now smaller, maybe better. They offer a smaller version for those of you who'd prefer that, but to be honest, the 40mm wears incredibly well. So this is 40mm by 47.5mm lug to lug, only 12.5mm on the thickness, and quite a bit of that is in that heavily domed sapphire crystal, so keep that in mind, and 20mm on the lugs, so endless options for swapping this one out. So go check it out on the website today. Now let's go on to some great vintage watches. We're going to start with this absolute gorgeous Omega from 1963. This is a C Master 30 with a Saurer dial, and it's the Sora stamp, so we'll talk more about that in a second. Let's take a closer look at this one. Now onto a wonderful Omega C Master 30 Saurer dial, as you can see right there. So that is a company logo, a company that was based in Switzerland, and they were a manufacturing company doing all sorts from textile machines and embroidery machines all the way to trucks and buses. So they produced a hell of a lot based in Switzerland. I think they went out of business in the 80s. We have a bit more detail of the company itself on the website, so be sure to check that out. But either way, and regardless of that, I think that's a very attractive logo, and it's kind of interesting that brands used to do this. So what this would have been is a watch pretty much printed for the company Saurer and given to employees for certain milestones. It could have been given to the CEO, it could have been anything really, and there's no engraving on the case back, and there's no engraving that's been removed, as we can see either. So this means this wasn't necessarily presented in a certain fashion. Usually with presentation watches or commemorative watches, you have, you know, for 20 years service and the person's name and so on, whereas this just has the logo. So it could have just been a company watch in general, which I find also interesting, because you've got to think this is circa 1963, and back in the 60s, you would have needed a watch to tell the time, right? Like, we didn't have technology or other forms of time telling other than what you probably had on you, or a clock in the office, or whatever it may have been. So a watch was a true tool. It would have been something maybe part of your equipment of daily use. Now, I don't know that to be the case for certain, but it seems likely. The dial on this one is all original and absolutely pristine. It is perfect. The case obviously has some scratches, it has some wear, but overall incredible as well. Original chamfer still nice and present. Original signed crown at 3 o'clock, as you'd expect, and you can still see the C Master hippocampus. These were very lightly done, so after a few polishes, they vanish. So it's nice to have that still so strong. But yeah, this is a wonderful example, and it's a reference 135.007. As I said, 1963. And inside is a manually wound Omega caliber 286, which is a very attractive movement as well. We paired it on a nice suede strap, which I think suits it beautifully. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. You can see from afar how sort of alluring that logo on the dial is. I think it's cool. Not everyone will like it, and that's completely fine, but I think it adds a little bit of spice to the watch, if you will. This is 35mm by 42mm lug to lug, only 10.5mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lugs. So endless options, but beautiful proportions, incredibly thin, and definitely a talking point. So go check it out on the website today. From there over to a watch I would gladly keep in the personal collection, but I just have too many watches at the moment. This is a 1950s Floron 18 karat rose gold with the Bombay or bomb lugs in 35mm, and it's pink gold, as I say, 18 karat, and not much over £1,000. I do not think you can go wrong with this one. So let's take a closer look. Now, some watches you sell, and when the opportunity arises to buy back, you jump on it, and this is one of those watches. I had sold this in the past a little while ago, and when the gentleman came to look at a watch who had bought this and asked if I would take it back in Part X, I said absolutely, because I think this is gorgeous. This is one of the nicest vintage, affordable, solid gold watches I've ever stocked. So this is a brand called Floron, which I believe is how you pronounce it. I'm probably absolutely butchering that. They're another brand that unfortunately just went out of business with the Quartz crisis, and we will probably never see again, but you never know. I can't seem to find many different references they did, but this has to be one of the most beautiful they did do. You have this gorgeous textured dial, as you can see, in these Bombay lugs, which are more like sort of daggers. They're absolutely gorgeous the way they come off the case. And as I say, 18 karat pink gold, nice crown at 3 o'clock. Snap-on case back, which has got a scratch through it where someone was very clumsily opening it, which was there before I sold it to the gentleman as well in the first place. So it's probably been there for many, many years, and it can happen. Now, we could have that taken out, but the reality is gold is a softer material, so I would tend not to polish it if I don't have to. And to be honest, it being on the case back does not bother me personally one bit, and I understand it will be different for everyone. But this is circa 1950s, and inside is a manually wound AS caliber 1187, a very reliable and renowned movement used across the board on many brands at this period. So let's show this on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, beautifully paired on my 7-inch wrist. Those lugs totally make this watch. And if this had like a brand name like Omega or Rolex even, or anything else in the 18 karat pink gold, it would be 3, maybe 4 times as much without question, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So this is 35mm by 43mm lug to lug, 8.5mm thick, and obviously a lot of that is in that domed acrylic crystal, as you can see. So incredibly thin on the wrist, and 18mm on the lug. So if you're not a fan of my strap pairing, firstly, why not? It's incredible. And secondly, you can swap it nice and easy, so don't worry about it. But go check it out on the website today. From there over to something really beautiful, and I think with the sun starting to come out finally in the UK every now and again, you know, let's not get carried away. This would be very, very great. This is the Nomos Club Campus 38 in deep pink. Let's take a closer look. Onto the Nomos Club Campus 38mm in the deep pink, they call it, this dial, and they're not wrong. That is very deep, and it is very pink, and it's gorgeous. The camera, I don't think, is probably doing it justice, and I don't think the pictures probably will. So this is definitely one, if you have the opportunity, come see it in person, because it's a very unique and incredible colour, which I actually think works beautifully, especially on the grey suede. I think it's a really good looking piece and one well worth checking out. But the reference to this one is 728, and it's from April 2022 with its box and paperwork. It comes with its original strap and buckle, and there's an additional strap and buckle in the box. Nomos signed thin crown right there. Screw down case back, very simple with space for engraving, which is what I think Nomos themselves are sort of edging towards with these kind of case backs, which, you know, is a nice thing to do. And inside is a manually wound Nomos caliber called Alpha, which is an in-house movement, a very sort of hard thing to do, especially at this price range. So it's always great when we see brands doing it. Now, as I say, 38mm Nomos are known for their longer lugs, which we'll talk about when we show it on wrist. So again, I would recommend trying one on if you get the opportunity, just because you might be surprised by how they wear. Now, if you like bigger watches and you think 38 sounds too small, this is probably the watch for you, to be honest, because I would say it wears more like a 40 because of the lug to lug distance. But yeah, let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Something to point out is this is quite a long strap. It only just fits me on the smallest, so if you've got big wrists, this is the strap for you. The other strap in the box I think is more sort of standard size, so you'll be fine with that one. But this is 38mm by 48.5mm lug to lug, so as I say, quite long lug to lugs, and you can see it looks a lot bigger, in my opinion, than a 38mm watch on the wrist. Only 8mm thick, so incredibly thin, and 20mm on the lug, so endless options for swapping this one out. Plenty of options from Nomos themselves, but also online there's, I mean, more options than you could know what to do with, so go check it out on the website today. From there over to another great vintage watch. This is the FILA Harpoon 36,000, which is the beats per hour, so it's a high beat movement, automatic 37mm on its original sprung NSA FILA bracelet. Let's take a closer look at this one. Now onto this really wonderful vintage watch from a brand I don't think we see enough of, and that is FILA. They did some absolutely incredible stuff in the 70s and some very unapologetically 70s in design, which I'm a big fan of. Some would consider this very 70s. I think it's more traditional. It's definitely of the era of 70s, but some of their designs are absolutely wacky, so I'll definitely check those out. We've sold a few of them, so if you go to the sold section, you can filter by brand, find FILA, and have a little look if you like the 70s. They're very cool. So this is the Harpoon 36,000, which is in reference to the beats. You can see that sweep going across beautifully smooth. So it's a high beat movement, day date over there. At 3 o'clock to change it, it obviously just goes round as normal. But to change the date, you go round manually to get to the date you need to be on. And to change the day, that is, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so on. To change the date, you push in the crown. So it's a little push like so, and you've got to make sure you get that good push on it, and it changes the date like so. Nice and easy. That's an original FILA signed crown. Really nice case with this sort of concaved inward slope towards the bezel, which is really nice and creates a nice profile to the case, in my opinion. Nice screw down case back, which is signed, and inside is an automatic FILA caliber 1164, which is one of their own movements. A lot of people don't realize that about FILA, but they made their own movements, and yeah, they're incredible. This is an NSA bracelet. NSA was a bracelet maker that a lot of brands used, and it has a sprung clasp like so, which helps getting it over the wrist, and FILA proudly stated across the clasp right there. Really nice and really interesting. Obviously a strap would also look great on this watch, but let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. Here we go. On my 7-inch wrist, that's what it currently fits up to. I would recommend a leather strap if you have a bigger wrist, because getting these or sort of wearing these on the sprung part puts a lot of tension on the bracelet, so I wouldn't recommend actually wearing it with the sprung part in motion, if that makes sense. So this is 37mm by 42.5mm lug to lug, 11mm on the thickness, and 18mm on the lug, so endless options for this one, and it really would look great on a variety of straps as well as this bracelet. So go check it out on the website today. Now on to something very fun. It definitely won't be for everyone, and that's completely fine, but the moment I saw this, I knew I had to have it and stock it because it's just so unique. This is a CONUS Colourful C Master 120 is what I've called it, because it looks like a C Master 120. 35.5mm manually wound with this really cool plastic bezel, bright colours, and this very wacky bracelet which is called Metal Colour. So let's take a closer look at this now one. For something absolutely bonkers, which I love. You guys and girls know I will gravitate towards the weird and wonderful when I get the opportunity, because I find it interesting. Maybe it's because I'm fortunate I deal in watches, so I get to handle so many incredible watches every day that something like this stops me in my tracks and makes me go, what on earth is that? That I get excited. And I think it's really cool. And I think a lot of you out there should definitely consider this kind of stuff if you're, a collector, if you're enjoying watches, because you will find you get so much enjoyment out of something fun like this than you would possibly think. But anyway, this is a CONUS, I don't know how you pronounce it. Another brand that is unfortunately no longer with us. I'd love to think what they'd be doing today. Maybe there'd be another version of Swatch if they were around today with a watch like this, but I've called this the C Master 120 because for those of you that have seen the C Master 120 by Omega, it looks very similar. This is obviously what they've designed it off, as in this brand designed it off the C Master 120. I don't think it was the other way around, but you never know. No signed crown or anything like that. The case is chrome and this bezel is plastic. So the fact that this has survived is kind of amazing. Tritium dial, tritium hands, really wonderful. Date at 3 o'clock. Chrome case, as I say, stainless steel screw down case back, and inside is a manually wound FHF caliber 96-4, and this is totally from the 1960s, maybe late 60s, but totally 1970s, I think. And it comes on this very funky bracelet, which again I think really suits it, and it's got Metal Colour proudly stated right there. These red triangles throughout. I think it's really interesting, goes with the design, but as always you could swap it for a leather strap if you wish. But let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, on my 7-inch wrist. I think that is a lot of fun. I think if you're considering like a moon swatch or something like that, they're fun, I have them, but this I think is a bit more of a talking point and will definitely get people interested, especially on a leather strap if this bracelet is a bit much for you. So this is 35.5mm by 38mm lug to lug, only 10mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lugs. So endless options, nice and easy to swap out if you so wish, but go check out this little gem on the website today. From there over to a watch that's very hard to beat value-wise across the board, including Seiko's, I would say. This is the Orient Mako 3 with the red-brown dial, automatic, a very, very good watch for less than £200. So let's take a closer look at this one. Now on to the ever affordable and always amazing Orient Mako 3. This is the day date. As you can see right there, I've called it a red /brown because the dial and the bezel, this part, is more brown than it is red, but in certain lights you get this deep maroon colour. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then red on the bezel up there as well. Faux patina throughout. I think it's really attractive and one to definitely pick up if you're just wanting a fun diver, maybe a holiday watch. This would make a great holiday watch as well. Screw down crown at 3 o'clock, really nice case, nice oyster style bracelet with plenty of adjustment so you can get a nice fit. Signed screw down case back as well, and inside is an automatic Orient caliber F6922, which is an in-house movement by Orient. They make their own movements just like Seiko and Citizen, which is fantastic. And this one's from circa 2022 with its box and booklets and spare links, as I said. There's really not an awful lot more to say about this other than if you're after an affordable dive watch and considering Seiko and Citizen, as you should be, you know, they're great. I would highly recommend throwing Orient in the mix, and if aesthetically you're drawn to this, snap it up because it's just as good as any affordable Seiko diver. So let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go, on my 7-inch wrist, I would say this is an SKX killer personally. I think it's far superior and nicer in design, and the fact you have a screw down crown, which is always nice. This is 42mm by 46mm lug to lug, 13mm on the thickness and 22mm on the lugs. So endless options for swapping it out, but I quite like the bracelet with it. So go check it out on the website today. And last but by no means least, this very, very cool 1985 Seiko Quartz Sports 100 with the black and gold. A very, very good looking watch, again, for not a lot of money, and quite an old quartz watch, really, when you think about it. These Seiko Quartz, I think, are brilliant. So let's take a closer look at that one. Vintage Seiko Quartz time, and this is a very, very cool version with the black and the gold. I'm personally a big fan of these old black Seikos because the way they age is really nice. It creates like this gunmetal effect. And I think it's rather attractive. It won't be for everyone, you know, some people want that perfect black looking watch, whereas others want that little bit of patina, you know, it looks old and it has that sort of charm to it personally. You have the gold tone bezel, which is friction fit, so it moves both ways, and a screw down gold capped crown, so that actually unscrews to use, which again is quite nice. Luminous dial and hands, it's just an attractive piece, obviously tritium at this time point as well. The reference is 6923-7130. It's a full-size bracelet, so this is all of its links currently in it. It obviously can be sized as well. Screw down signed case back right there. Inside is a Seiko Quartz caliber 6923, and this one's from circa June 1985. Watch only, but as I say, full bracelet. Really attractive, almost grey dial. Now it is black, but because of how deep the black and how bright the gold is, it looks kind of grey in a lot of lights, which I think is really attractive with the applied indices and logos as well. So let's show this one on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Again, if you're after something a little bit different, something a little bit fun, this is definitely one to consider. So what you're looking at is 36.5mm by 41mm lug to lug, only 9mm on the thickness and 18mm on the lugs. So endless options for swapping out, as you can see, but the bracelet is definitely the looker in my opinion. So go check it out on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls, 12 watches in this week's drop. Let me know down in the comments what is your favorite. Mine has to be between these two vintage watches, the Floron and the Omega C Master 30. I think they're both really cool. That extra print on the dial, it just really makes it for me. So yeah, let me know down in the comments what's your favorite, and I look forward to seeing that. And we'll see you all again next week. Next week's drop is looking incredible. As always, there's some really, really great pieces in there, some very good deals to be had on some more expensive watches. By that I mean sort of the sub 5,000 to a little bit over £5,000 price range. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care.